Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make these notepad covers that are refillable. And we're going to be using some new papers. So here are some examples with older retired papers. It has a pen holder that keeps it shut. And then when you open it up, there's a little pocket. And then the notepad can slide out, so when you're out of paper you can replace the notepad. So here's another one. And then if you like, you can decorate the front cover as well. So the supplies that you need are going to be some 5x8 legal pads, and I just get these at Walmart, and some Pentel RSVP pens, and some sticky back canvas. This is from Ranger and I get it from Amazon, and there's a couple of companies that sell it. If you just plug in sticky back canvas or book binding materials, you'll be able to find something. And medium weight chipboard. This is from Graphics and I also got it from Amazon. So I'm going to get my Versamat in here. Then you want to cut down your chipboard to 5.5 by 8.5, and you want 2 of those pieces. You also might want, this is optional, some metal corners from Tim Holtz, and some Shimmer Trim, and some Grosgrain Ribbon, and some Washi Tape. Okay, so I've cut these 2 pieces of chipboard down, 5.5 by 8.5, and then I've cut my sticky back canvas down to 2 by 7/8 by 10, or it could be 3 by 10. And then I have 3 pieces of coordinating cardstock. The first one is from the new Aurora collection, the other is from the new Mix-Ins, and the third one is from the Blue Skies collection. And these are all featured in the new book. Okay, so you want to cut down your piece that you're going to be using for your covers. You want to cut those down to 6 by 10, and you'll notice that I forgot to cut a couple inches off the top of each of those, and I'll address that later. So then your inside piece is going to be cut at, hold on a second, I have it here, 8 1/4 by 11 3/4, and then you will adjust the 11 3/4 length at a later time when you go to apply that piece. So you'll see what happens later on. But right now I've got it at 11 3/4. I just don't want to cut too much off. So we'll start there. And then you will need to cut your pocket. So this is, you take a 5 by 5 piece of pattern paper, and then you put it in your trimmer and line up those corners, and then make another cut so that you have a triangle. And you just use one of those. And then for the top of your notepad, you want some pattern paper, and I like the whatever pattern paper I use for the pocket, I like it to be the same for the notepad. And then I've got that cut down to 2 by 5. And solid cardstock to make the sleeve. That one's cut at 4 by 8. And then 2 pieces of 1 by 4 scored in the middle. And those you're going to use to kind of pop up your triangle pocket, just so that it's not flush and it's easier to slide things in and get things out of that little pocket. So I'm going to score those down the middle at a 1/2 inch. Okay, so now let's start assembling. Oh, I'm still cutting supplies up. You want your Grosgrain ribbon to be 3 inches long. You want 2 of those. Those are going to be your pen loops. And then your shimmer trim, you want 2 lengths of 12 inches each. And then you'll also need a few other supplies, and those will come in like for adhesive and so on. Okay, so the chipboard, you can kind of feel which is the front and which is the back. And so I just kind of feel along the edges and to see which would feel more comfortable as the front cover. It's kind of hard to explain, but when you touch it, you'll know. And then you line up your cover piece of cardstock. And this one doesn't really have this is where I remembered I needed it to be 6 by 10 instead of 6 by 12, so I'm trimming it down. This one doesn't have a direction to the paper, which makes it a lot easier, but make sure that you have to pay attention to which direction your paper is going so that when you make your front cover, the paper doesn't wind up being upside down. I've done that a few times, so. Okay, so you line up your front cover, and the right side is going to be flush. And I'm adhering this with Bonding Memories Broad Tip glue pen. This is the best glue for this particular project. It creates a nice seal when there aren't any bubbles, and it doesn't make the cardstock too wet. So you put your chipboard down so that one side is flush, and that's going to be the bound side of your book cover. And then you're going to miter your corners. So you fold your corners in at a diagonal and press everything down really well with your bone folder, and then glue those down. And really get in there with your fingers and bone folder to make sure everything's adhered. So you glue each of those corners in, and you're being really neat with this just in case those of you who don't want to use the metal corners, it'll still be nice and neat and finished. And then I just take the whole thing and kind of roll it to fold. Instead of folding the piece of paper in that end to glue it, I stand my chipboard up and roll it and then glue it down. And that also creates a nicer finish, so it's rolled instead of creased. And then you do the same thing with the side. And just get in there with your bone folder and make sure everything's adhered. Okay, so that is your front cover. And now you're going to do your back cover. And it's the same process, except you have to be mindful of the left side is going to be the back. And so I just kind of like to line everything up. And then you make sure that your edges are going to meet. And glue everything down. Same procedure. I just like to be super careful in figuring out the direction of my pattern paper and the placement of the covers, because I've made more than a few mistakes and found out after I had everything glued down and everything finished that my back cover, the paper was upside down. The direction of the pattern was upside down. So figure it out first before you start gluing. So this is the same. I'm mitering my corners. And then I'm rolling that edge up and gluing it down. And then do the same thing with the other one. once you start making these covers, they're kind of addictive. I have them all over the house because I'm a note maker, list maker, so I like to have a pretty little notepad close by. Okay, now we're going to put our sticky back canvas down. So I'm just kind of lining it up on my Versamat before I expose the adhesive, just so I have an idea of where I want the placement to be. So you want to make sure that your covers are lined up. So I use the lines on my Versamat. You want them to be lined up, and then the space that you want to leave open is give or take a ½ inch. And this is a one and done, so make sure you're sure before you put it down. So you just kind of line it up and place it down, and then you do the same thing with the other side. Make sure it's even with the other cover, and then you fold in the top pieces. Now if you don't get your sticky back canvas on exactly straight, like you'll notice that this is just a smidge off, this is where you fix it. You take your Shimmer Trim and then you line it up, and you don't follow the sticky back canvas, you follow the lines on your Versamat, and that's how you can kind of tidy it up and make sure that it looks straight. And makes it a lot easier to not have to worry so much. Plus it finishes off that edge of the sticky back canvas on your cover. And then you do the same thing for the back cover. You can use ribbon, you can use a couple pieces of Shimmer Trim. There's a lot of different ways. Okay, so now we're going to add the pen holder, and I apologize, my camera turns off in a second, so you won't see the front one, but you loop it around and use glue dots, and then loop it on the other side. Make sure that the front loop is, the top loop is attached to the front cover, and then the back loop is attached to the back cover. I mean, the bottom loop is attached to the back cover. And just play around with it. The glue dots, they're forgiving, so if you don't get it right the first time, that's okay. You can kind of fiddle with it until they're right. And now we're going to add the inside piece, and depending on how far apart you place your covers down on your sticky back, this is where you want to have enough, but sometimes you have just a smidge too much, so I trimmed off another 1/8 of an inch, give or take. Okay, so then you just glue this all down with your broad tip glue pen, and make sure that you really cover like every bit of this paper with glue. If you tap your broad tip glue pen, it'll dispense a little bit more glue out. And then just place that down so that it's got an even tiny little border around each of the edges. And then burnish it with your bone folder to make sure you have a nice coverage and connection with everything, so there aren't any bubbles or pieces that aren't glued down. Okay, so now we're going to decorate our notepad, and I just use the top part of that notepad and glue down the pattern paper to it, and then make sure it's actually stuck before you start rolling. I'm gonna make sure I burnish it down with my bone folder. Okay, and then you just roll it just like you did with the cover fronts and glue the back of it down. You don't have to do this, but it makes it prettier, I think. You can just put your plain notepad in there too. Okay, now we're going to connect the notepad to your notepad cover, and you take this 4x8 piece and slide it in, and then just kind of roll it to the back. You don't want it to be super tight because you want to be able to slide your pad of paper in and out, but you want it tight enough. And then I'm just using 1/4 inch score tape, and use a bunch of this because it's what connects your pad to your notepad cover. And you have to burnish those too with your fingernail or your bone folder. Then you remove the protective coating. And I'm going to stand up for this. And this is also a one and done, so make sure you are happy with the positioning and just press it down. And then you slide your pad out and get in there with your bone folder and make sure you press everything down. Okay, now we're going to put our little pocket in on the left side. And I like to finish off that edge with some washi tape, just because if you use it, it's going to get, you know, it protects it. The washi tape, it gives an extra layer of protection. And then I'm using these 2 pieces of 1x4 cardstock. I'm folding them, and this will kind of lift the pocket up so that you can get in and out of it. I've made them flush and just attach the triangle directly to the notepad cover, and it's just really tricky to get stuff in and out. So I found that by lifting it and creating a little space here, it makes it easier. So I'm just attaching these with 1/8 of an inch score tape to the pocket, and then I'm using 1/4 inch along the whole edge to be able to attach the pocket to the notepad cover. And then you just place that down and burnish it with your bone folder. Okay, we're getting there. All right, so these metal corners are from Tim Holtz, and I'm just kind of playing around with coloring, and I decided that I liked the silver ones instead of the bronze ones, or copper. I can't remember which ones the first choice was, but I decided on silver. And then off screen, you pinch these down, but then off screen you have to hammer them down. So I did that and got my all 4 corners attached, and now I'm going to slide my pad of paper in. Now let's decorate our pen. So these Pentel pens, you can unscrew the ink portion, and then you've got a clear barrel. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it. It's about a 3/4 of an inch by 4 piece of patterned paper. And you want to go just on that clear part that's seen in the barrel. And then you just trim that down, and then you roll it. So now I have my little tube of patterned paper, and you unscrew it and you put it in the barrel. And sometimes it's a little fussy, and I apologize for being off camera there. So I just take some tweezers and just kind of twist it, and then just, oh, different pair of tweezers, and twist it, and then you push it in, and then you can slide your ink in there, and then you have a decorated pen as well. So you put everything, you put your pen in the loops, and that keeps it'll loosen up after a while, but it keeps your pad of paper, your notepad cover, from alligatoring, and it keeps it shut properly. It's a fun project. I hope you give it a try. And then you see I have decided to switch out and try a different patterned paper in my pen as well. So I appreciate you watching today. I hope you give this project a try. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I just passed 100 subscribers. Exciting. Supplies are available in my online store. And thanks for watching.